What is the role that you see culture playing within the African community?
First, identity. When you create a situation where people lose value in their own identity, they are a lost people. So the current phenomenon of trying to rediscover our culture is a reaffirmation of our identity as a people who have a contribution to make in the development in the world. Yeah, no culture dies. We can only say it's probably subsumed under a bigger culture. And it's like a program in a computer. You touch a few keys and then the whole program comes on board. And that is what happens. When you start the process of rediscovery, few things lead to bigger things. Ultimately, you get surprised to see the level of discovery that has taken place and a lot about the culture that you will find still embedded in our surroundings, in our people, and what we do around us. What inspired me really was the settled mind that I had as to whether our culture conflicts with our religious convictions. I got convinced that they ultimately all lead to the same thing. I also got inspired by the realization that African culture has its own inbuilt regenerative process, and that is what makes it resilient and able to resist a lot of process of dominance. But above all, I believed and I got convinced that the youth, as a colleague said earlier this afternoon, are the seed for the future. And therefore the youth should be the key focus in transferring these traditional values.
And what will you tell your people when you get back?
I'll tell them that they are not alone and that there's a lot to learn about ourselves. And that in that process, given the example of what we had just this afternoon concerning the mapping done in the Kalahari Desert, it can form an important basis for ensuring that our people are able to create space for themselves within the decentralization process taking place in our country so that they can take charge of their lives.
What are the key lessons you've learned from this ABN summit?
Yeah, as I said, first, the issue of assurance that we are not alone and that what we set ourselves to do appears to be a common resolve by a lot of people all over the Africa. We've seen that this is getting widespread in Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, Botswana, and we think that there's a need for us in West Africa also to ginger up and to rediscover ourselves.